Historic Preservation Board meeting. Special meeting will now come to order Monday, January 27, 2025. First item of business is approval of our minutes. So at this time, we will not have approval of minutes. Today, they will be moved and approved on a later date. Next item we have is our public comments. If you would like to speak, we ask that you come to the podium and state your first and last name and your address, please. Okay. All right, we will move on to our business items. We will start with our old business.
Good afternoon, thank you for attending the special meeting. The city received a grant through the state in the amount of $50,000 as a request, legislative request actually, for the small cities.
That was a small category matching grant.
Small category mentioned grant, whereby the city was able to receive $50,000 to update its 1995 historic resources survey. And that is due to the fact that 30 years have passed by, and so there are potential new facilities that are within that 50-year window or beyond. So there's a good opportunity to update the survey. The city went out with an RFP for professional consulting services, specialized with historic preservation expertise. The city was able to receive 7 very highly qualified applications, which says a lot for the Crescent City to be able to receive that many. And so RFQ scoring process came about. The firm that we had recommended, Historic
Property Associates.
Historic Property Associates. Paul and Jenny are here today to kind of give an overview of their project and the scope. This is a project that will take place over the next few months. With completion, we're believing by no later than the end of June, maybe early July, if there's additional meetings that need to take place. But there's a lot of data that will need to be collected as part of this in conjunction with the state of Florida. So having said that, Paul and Jenny are here to give an explanation.
And the mic is weird, it works, so you just have to hold it.
Yeah, you can hold it.
Yeah, you just bend it up toward you, just so that.
How's that? Yes, comes through loud and clear. Not my first time doing this. So I'm Paul Weaver. For the record, I live at 5 Milton Street in St. Augustine, Florida. And I'm the president of Historic Property Associates, and it's a pleasure to be here. Last time was 30 years ago. And we did the original survey of the city, and we did the National Register nomination. I did something similar. We worked in the last couple of years in Seward, Florida. It's the same thing. I'm not sure I'm going to be around another 30 years to do the next update. Keep your fingers crossed anyway. So I'm the president of Historic Property Associates. Been working in historic preservation here in Florida for over 40 years. In St. Augustine, I've been the president of the St. Augustine Historical Society, and I've been chairman and a member, vice chair of a board very similar to yours over there in St. Augustine. I'd like to maybe turn it over to Jenny Wolf and let her introduce herself. Jenny and I have a 10-year working relationship. When I worked on that city board in St. Augustine, Jenny was our staff person. We got some of the credit, a lot of the blame, but Jenny did about 90% of the work.
Thank you, Paul. Yes, I'm Jenny Wolf, And I started off, most recently, rather, as Paul mentioned, as the historic preservation officer for the city of St. Augustine for 10 years. And then 3 years, I've been working in the private sector, working for a preservation architect based in Philadelphia, while I lived in Pensacola, Florida. So I would travel to where our project cities were and do design guidelines, comprehensive plans, historic district ordinances, preservation plans. These are all the things that I've been doing either on one side of the planning counter or behind the planning counter. So I have experience in that regard, and I also am very passionate about Florida. I was the president of the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation for 2 years, and I'm still on that board. I've been on there since 2014. And that was, during that time, I was invited by the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society to come over and give a talk about historic preservation and the work the Florida Trust was doing, and answered a lot of questions about, and got to visit the little museum of Crescent City. So I've been kind of following some of the progress that's been going on and saw this opportunity come through, and I'm happy to be working with Paul on the survey, and that we can get you some good recommendations for moving forward. And like Paul, I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
So we don't want to spend a lot of time, but, you know, we would like to have a dialogue with you, and we're here working for you. There are some things that under the state grant that we have to do to comply with their guidelines. And basically the work product is going to be a survey report, and I provided, I think, the city, and hopefully had a chance to look at that. But in 1995, there was a survey done of the municipal limits of Crescent City. And the second work product of that project was a National Register district. And for reference, I put that up on the screen. So really we're tasked now with updating that, looking at it. As a point of reference, the district only included buildings from roughly, I think, 1875 to 1946 because of the guidelines and the rules of the Florida, the Division of Historical Resources and the National Register of Historic Places. That gives us kind of a cutoff 50 years, unless it's a property of exceptional significance, to be considered either individually listed, eligible for the National Register, or a contributing building as part of a National Register district. So one of the major tasks we're going to deal with on this project is, 1946 plus 30.
Yeah.
So we're looking now to look at the buildings in that area that were built prior roughly to 1975, and see whether they're worthy of potentially being considered part of that historic district, so we could do an update of the period of significance in the future, where we're laying the groundwork for it. And also, we're looking along the margins of the district to see if the district should be expanded. Some personal goals that I have, and I think Jenny and I are a very good team because we both have complementary strengths. And my strength is doing historical research. That's my passion. And I've already looked at one of the things that's come so far since we did the past surveys, online resources. So I've already checked, for example, the Palatka newspapers. There was a section on Crescent City, and I put in our proposal just some of the preliminary research that I did. I found 2 or 3 articles on the construction of the Catholic Church here. And I'm trying to remember who the builder was, but one of the prominent builders. So we're able to do online research, and also through Ancestry.com. We can't do every building, but I think the more important buildings, we're going to try both through our survey report and on the individual forms to add some flesh to that, what was done before in a lot more detail, particularly about builders, architects, important people, important buildings in the community. And then the other thing, some of you, don't know how old we are, but I've always, my son, when I have a technical question, how do I do this? I asked Jenny, because she is state of the art on, she's a dynamite comprehensive planner, and we've already been discussing today how we're gonna integrate this information into GIS systems and create a really nice database and mapping system that we'll be able to provide you, which I think is, very important at this time. So that's kind of the summary of the product. We want to give, again, looking at that post-World War II period and also looking at the boundaries, should they be expanded? And I know from the RFP, some of the input, and I've had some informal discussions, both in and inside the district and within the city of Crescent City. I have to catch myself. I don't want to say Crescent Beach. But anyway, talk with you and make recommendations about, does the city of Crescent City want to do a locally ordinance and municipal district? And does it want to recognize individual landmarks? And part of our study will be, I think, making recommendations to you about those two, those potentialities. So without further ado, Madam, it's Chairman Glover, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sorry I didn't recognize you from the start. I'll turn it back to you, and if the board has questions, again, we come here, we're wanting to work with you and for you. Some things that I know you're much more aware of than us. Any contacts in the community that are familiar with the history that we could use as resources, the library. If any of you want to be involved with us in going out in the field and, doing a reconnaissance survey or talking about individual buildings, we're very much open to that. And maybe Mr. Realhart, I know I looked online and it seems like, I don't know whether it was a school, but if, there was at least one building that's kind of topical, well, what's the future of it? Can we get grants? The things like that, if those are some things that we can help you with and give you some guidance, that's what we want to do.
Thank you.
So, thank you very much,
Okay.
Chairman.
Thank you so much for your presentation. At this time, we will open it up to the board if they have any questions. Mr. Goff?
Well, first of all, I want to welcome you here, and we're delighted. We've been waiting for this survey for some time now, and we're very excited about it. It's extremely important to our city, as you know. And furthermore, I'd like to compliment our city commission in hiring your firm, especially since you have a great history with us, and you're local, you're not that far. I am also rooted in a great historical city, St. Augustine. May I ask that at some point you send us some information on your firm? In our package, we don't have it, and it would be helpful to us. My name is Dan Dodge, and I am a director of the Fruitland Peninsula Historical Society, and I happen to chair the Historical Preservation Committee. And on behalf of the Historical Society, we are very happy that you're here and have great resources. and would be delighted to assist you in any way that we can. I in particular am very anxious to help you. I have a strong background in restorations, not only of private homes, but also of large luxury historic resorts. Two major ones in Florida, both built in the early 20s. And so with that, how can we help you?
Madam Chair, do I have permission to engage in a dialogue?
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much. I always go through the chairs. Mr. Dodge, thank you very much. We have, and I guess I didn't realize, in the RFP, we provided our resumes, so that's very easy. The city has a record, but I'll make sure that you get a copy of it, and that contains a great deal of background about me individually and our firm, and also Ms. Wolf. And I would like to schedule a time to get together with you as soon as I can, because I'll be doing the report, and again, having somebody that's knowledgeable about the city. Again, we want to update what was done before, which is the pre-1946 period. I've also already got some ideas about that, but we need to write the history of the city post-1946. And a lot of that, what are the sources for that? But if we can go to an individual or individuals and can highlight that, I know, for example, the fern industry has got to be very, very important in that period. Prior to that, it was primarily, citrus. So anyway, thank you for your generous offer, and we will try and get in touch. After when I have a chance, I'll try and get your contact information and get going on that.
Also, another historical factor is the tourist industry for Crescent City.
Right.
There were a number of hotels here, and we're fortunate that in our community, there are families that have been here for many generations. You also mentioned the school project, the middle school, and I also chair that effort, which we call the Blue Ribbon Committee, of repurposing it. And you further stated about writing city ordinances, and I personally have been waiting for that since I moved here, which hasn't been that long ago, just 3 years. But and I purchased a home that was built in 1917 here on South Main Street on Lake Stella, and then it was doubled to the size in the 20s that I'm restoring. So I'll be delighted to meet with you.
Wonderful. When we conclude the meeting, we'll get it together informally, and if I could get your contact information, that would be great.
I have seen the report that you did in 95.
95.
And the book, there is a book that has a picture of each house and everything. It's a book. I do believe Cherie Register has possession of that book.
She does.
And that would be very helpful too. You may have copies of all that since you did it, but
Right.
but Cherie also is, she holds an unbelievable amount of information and memorabilia of Crescent City and the history, so I'm sure you're gonna wanna
And Cherie's, what's her last name?
register.
Register, that's what I thought.
I can give you your contact.
Wonderful.
She'll be a really good source too.
Right. Yeah, this is this is our kickoff meeting, so we want to hit the ground running and making those local contacts. We don't want to reinvent the wheel, so there's a lot of basic information out there that we can get our hands on up front. It's gonna make us more efficient, and I think in the end, give us a much more quality project. So, Madam Chair?
Yes, I think this is.
Oh, I have a question, more so a clarifying question. So this is a matching grant of $50,000.
I don't believe it's a matching grant, it's because Crescent City is in a rural area, I think it's 100%.
Yeah.
You correct me if I'm wrong, but yes, there's no match on the part of the city.
And that was the other thing. So when it says the length of agreement, is this something that we're already in the process of? It's in the language here, it said the agreement shall begin on July 1st, 2024, and shall end 6/30/2025.
I'll yield to the city manager on that, but we're a sub-grantee. The city has got a grant agreement with the state, and that's when their agreement. So, but I'll let the city manager answer that.
We actually just signed it today. They had a revision to the grant agreement, and I signed it and sent it back to them. So it begins this day, actually, and it goes through the end of July. So this is the time frame in which the work is to be done, and we requested an invoice from the state.
Wonderful, that's their RFP, which gives us our resumes in there. I think the schedule, and I think we made copies of the schedule too. I don't want to get into the, nitty gritty, but that's available to you. But basically, doing these forms, we've committed to doing 350 forms, which will be updates of the forms that were done back in 1995, and then new forms for buildings that basically post-date 1946 and 1975 roughly. We'll do new forms for those buildings. And then we'll do a report similar to what we did in 1995 update, which will include all the basic information which the state requires, which is mainly a history of the area, a physical description, sites, architecture, building types, styles of architecture, an inventory of all the buildings we survey, bibliography, a section on recommendations. It's a standard format that the state uses, which we will comply with in producing this report.
So you're talking about the deliverables that.
That's correct.
Thank you for that clarification.
But that's, and I apologize, I thought you had seen this, but that's got everything, about us, our background, our basic concept for doing the work. And then, we just, I think, technically got everything squared away with the state. And the schedule has been finalized, if I'm not mistaken, Mr. City Manager. So we've got a schedule in there and a time frame, and also a schedule of deliverables, what you will be receiving under the state grant.
Mr. Weaver, this is exactly what. Thank you very much.
And I've got it,
I see it for the speed delivery.
we can send you, I've got it, if anybody wants it in a PDF too, I've got it in a PDF.
So that would be very helpful.
And the city, you've got a copy of, I gave you a PDF, so the city on record has a copy of it. And hard copies are nice, but, you can bring it up on your computer. That's
Much
even
more
better.
efficient.
Yeah. So anything else that the board would like to see us do? I'm really looking forward to meeting with our contacts, and I don't want to put a number to it, but we always, there are two types of buildings out there. There are sort of the average building that technically meets the age requirements, and it contributes, let's say, to the overall historic feeling of the community. And then there are the anchor buildings, the landmark buildings, the most important buildings, not only architecturally, the ones you see, but the ones that I hope by doing our research and working with you, we will be able to provide additional information about. And so, I mean, I saw the church that they Philip Rainbow right over there. And,
Oh,
and I think, I'm trying to remember if he had, I did the old Stanton High School in Jacksonville, Florida. I won't tell you how long ago. I think Jimmy was 5 years old. But I think that, you know, there was a connection with him and the history of that building. So when I saw that, I got really, really excited because my senior honors thesis at the University of Florida was on the civil rights movement in Jacksonville. I worked with Dr. David Colburn at the University of Florida. So that I mean, to have somebody that important and little old Crescent City is exciting to me.
Yeah, he was born here, and when the family left, they relocated to Jacksonville.
But he still was born.
So,
Yeah.
because the house home he was born in, it was out there, so somehow I just passed by the other day and I was like, we gotta find a way to put something there to, recognize, you know, that was his birthplace, as he was born in
Right.
a home there, yes.
Well, I think, you know, and again, it's been a while, but I did the nomination with Dr. Gerardo, who was the state senator on the whole Stanton. And there was a good, you know, because he was such an important figure. I did a lot of research on him at that point. So hopefully that'll be something that we can, that's an example, I think, of hopefully some of the detail we can add to the history.
Is it within the city limits?
Yes, it's right beside Johnson Temple. The church out there is right there, that spot, so I don't know why I thought about it, I'm like, when, I always knew about it, but I was like, I know they're building a school there, and I just seen some markers, and I was like, that needs to be bought to the ticket, so we can put some type of memorial there, you know, I don't know what happened to the home, it was a shack,
Right.
and I don't know just what happened. And
Well,
these are stories that my grandmothers and dad and all of them shared.
Now, that would be wonderful. If we could talk, maybe we start talking to you, and then if there's some people in the community that have memories that we can, you know, do an interview with them and record some of that information. That's what I work with Dr. Sam Proctor. I'm sorry. I apologize.
Happens to all of us.
I should have, and I will do that right now. Airplane mode. Anyway, I should know better, right? I'm in the chair.
It happens.
Yeah. But yeah, that's an example of what we would, we would like to do. We're behind schedule already, to be honest with you, because somebody told me once, when all is said and done, more will be said than done. But it takes longer for the state to get these contracts out in time and approved than they sometimes give us the time to do the work. So, but we wanna, we've been, I apologize, I thought about coming in, could we take a break? We worked in the field all day today, so, pardon my appearance, but anyway, yes, we're excited about the types of things we've talked about, and maybe your board can be our conduit into the community.
I think you'll be surprised how many people will be delighted to speak to you.
Well, let me compliment, we did the work back almost 30 years ago, and my contact with Crescent City has been, my children went to St. Joseph Academy. Don't hold it against us, because Crescent City and St. Joseph Academy were big rivals, particularly in basketball. So Crescent City come up to the St. Joe campus and we would come down here for basketball games, I remember. And the other thing, I worked through Hispanic mission, a Catholic church with a migrant community here. And I speak Spanish, and my wife's from Mexico, and we come, it's been a while, but we come down, and it was kind of like a Toys for Tots, and it was very gratifying to work with that community. But I am very much impressed that a city of this size even has a board such as yours, and has a museum, and has this level of interest in history and historic preservation. And you talk about tourism, that's a great drawing card for people, even at a small scale. So, congratulations to you and the city for the work you're doing. And I've been a volunteer too. I know you're taking time out of I'm sure everybody's got a busy schedule to do your service to your community that I'm sure you love dearly. So I'm impressed and compliments to you for what you've done.
So if the project end date is June 30th, so everything needs to be submitted a month prior. Is that what?
There's some flexibility with that, and I talked with Jenny about it, and we'll talk with the city manager. This is just typical. I want enough time to do a quality job. And so we'll be, we're jumping right in right now, and we've never not met deadlines, and we never defaulted on a contract. But I'm trying to remember, 19th nervous breakdown. I've only had about 3 or 4. Most of them have been over state grants about meeting deadlines. So we want to get going on this as soon as we can, get as much done. But I think there is maybe, since we're starting a good bit later than we thought, even with the stage, maybe there's some flexibility in the scheduling in order that we do. My goal always is the best quality job we can do. And that's why we were having some discussions with the state, and somehow they got the idea that there were 450 sites out there, and there were only 350 total in the National Register District 30 years ago. And we've already been out there and found the number of buildings that have been demolished. So I think that 350 number is sound, and I think it's fair to do, but it's not always the quantity, it's the quality. And if we don't have to do, that number of forms, another 100 forms, which now we've got an agreement, I have that much more time to spend working with you, doing my newspaper research, using Ancestry.com, some of the tools that we have to provide greater detail. And I know in St. Augustine, every place I go, those historic survey reports almost become Bibles. And a lot of times, I just worked in Stuart, Florida, the East Stuart community. And I found in that city, they have every newspaper from the time the town was founded until the present. And I was able to go in there, in the African American community, there was a guy named Guy Davis, who was kind of the director of recreation, informal. And the city asked me, can you find any, they didn't have a picture of him. Didn't know when he was born, anything. And I did a subject search for his name in the local paper. I got 500 hits. He was the manager of the local semi-pro baseball team. All of the civic, the paper reported on every ball game that he managed. Satchel Paige came into town. I mean, all of these things. So it's a great opportunity. We don't have that coverage here in Crescent City. But if we have it through the placa paper for a period of about 30 to 40 years, and I looked at the survey report and picked out a few names and some buildings, the Catholic Church I mentioned, and I found 2 or 3 articles about when that building was constructed, who did it, where the materials came from, that level of detail. So that's my hope, that we can get those things, and we're gonna really work hard to do that, and, we'll work with the city and we'll work with the state. Hopefully, they'll work with us and give us an adequate amount of time to do a really good job. So, any other questions? Thank you all so much, and thank you for the warm welcome, and I look forward to, talking with you individually about the project.
Thank you. So, historic district, so we move to number 3. Anything?
I don't believe we need to have any information on that particular item. That will be forthcoming on any changes or recommendations based on the survey.
Okay, all right. Okay. Any general discussion?
Well, as I said earlier, this is very, very exciting.
It really is.
And we can't forget the wonderful steamships that came down to Crescent City first, bringing, because there really weren't any road systems. And they brought tourists, they transported citrus, then ferns, and it's a great part of our history. So I'm looking forward to it.
President Roosevelt and his wife spent time in as well. Along with, Mrs. Bethune.
Veronica, we can't hear you.
I was saying that, President Roosevelt and his wife and, Dr. Bethune, they spent a lot of time here in the, county. So, actually, a lot of people don't know, but she wanted to put, Bethune here in Palaca, and, they didn't welcome it, so they told her to go down there, flag it by the railroad, and that's how Cookman ended up there, so, yeah.
We also, because the St. Johns River came through here, and Jacob Astor wasn't built, we had an Astor Hotel in Astor, Florida. So there was a hotel there, so there were a lot of people that came to visit Astor that, stopped here and were part of the transportation, boat transportation.
We have a rich history here, so, unique history.
And not only do we have wonderful historical buildings, but we have wonderful trees as well.
All right, is there any more comments? For the audience, do you have any?
Well, we're not saying anything because we're both city commissioners and the meeting wasn't noticed for us to be present, so.
But we can make a comment, it's in the sunshine. because-
Yeah, but it wasn't noticed for us to be here. Well, I'm not, but,
You want me to leave and you can talk?
maybe next time, and it was very informative, and thank you all for all of your comments, because I thought they were very helpful and brought up important things, but, I think, I will go through the city manager or make suggestions for next time, instead of speaking today, because I just want to make sure that it was noticed correctly, and so otherwise I'll hold my comments, but thank you all very much.
Thank you. Okay, it's not next, at this time, we will adjourn.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
It has been properly motioned and second that the historic Preservation Special Meeting be adjourned.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Very efficient meeting.
This was very nice, very nice.
You said it.
I'm very impressed.